Hi everyone, my name is Phil and welcome to PhilDoes3D. I'm a multimedia and 3D artist and I stream on Twitch weekdays from 5 PM Pacific time in the United States, 11 AM in Australia and 12 AM in the UK. Let's continue on with the model we were working on yesterday, the garden terrace. We'll probably do a bit more texturing work on the outside of the model, maybe the lower part of the terrace outside this time. And I also want to do a bit of work on that central tile, that mosaic tile that's in the middle of the rotunda. So we'll just open up the file. Hope you're all well. Remember, if you have any questions, feel free to pop into chat and I'll do my best to answer. Even if you want to say hello, just pop into chat. Or if you just want to lurk, that's cool as well. Alright, so yesterday we did some work on this outside ledge and the top of the terrace tiles. I want to do a bit of texturing work on this interior mosaic tile just around the outside edge, and also these the outside edge of the raised part of the terrace here. So I think what we might do is we might just, because we've been working with this middle section, we might just continue on and finish that off a bit. So I'll select that. We will throw on a unwrap UVW. I want to move it to map channel 2 and move the UVs across. I'll open the UV editor, and that's actually okay for what we need. It's flattened out just as to one circle, so we now will go to render to texture. We want to use existing channel 2. We're going to add a diffuse map. I'm going to make it quite large. We'll do a 4K texture. And I'm just going to save it to our stairs directory for now. We might do a bit of organization work a little bit later on and move some of the textures into their own specific folder, so that it's just good housekeeping to do that, but for the moment we'll just leave it where it is. Call this one mosaic tile.tga is fine. We'll save it as a 24-bit file. Okay, so we have the channel as 2, a diffuse map, and then our path. We'll render that out. By making it 4K, we just ensure that we have a really nice large texture that we can paint on top of, and then later on, if we want, we can reduce the size in Photoshop if you wanted to make it smaller. Alright, close render to texture down. Now, before we forget, we want to go to the modify panel, channel info, utilities panel, I beg your pardon, not modify panel. We want to copy map channel 2 into map channel 1. We're going to clear channel 2. I'm just going to assign that new texture that we just created so that that's ready to go when we come back in to Max from Murray. We want the stairs folder, and we called it, if I can find it, mosaic tile. There it is. Alright. We'll just pipe that into the diffuse channel. we have our object selected. I'm going to do show shaded, show realistic, and then I'm just going to assign the material to the object. Alright, I'm just quickly going to save Max there. Okay, now we have our object selected, so we're going to go to File, Export, Export Selected. Again, we're going to go back to our folder here, and we're going to save it as an OBJ file. And we're going to call it Mosaic Tile. Just helps to keep all of the names the same, so that way when you are moving files around you know exactly what's what. We'll export that. Done. I'll leave this as center right under top in Max. That'll be fine. Now we're going to go into Mari. We're going to go File, New to open a new project. We're going to call this Mosaic Tile. Back into our saved directory and mosaic tile.obj that we just exported. We're going to create a new color map at 4K, and we'll go OK. All right. We're going to go into flat shading, and we're going to import into the layer stack. Mosaic tile.tga. Alright, now we're going to create a new layer. Remember to always create a new layer, that way if we make any, if we don't like what we've done, we can easily remove it. So we're going to go into our image manager and load up some textures. This one, I think. I'm not really painting a new texture, a bitmap texture, RGB texture on top of this, so I'm just going to load up my textures that I use for making things a bit dirty, dirtying them up. Our alpha maps, usually. Alright, let's have a look at you to begin with. Let me just scale it down a bit so I can get a better look at it. Maybe. No, I don't like you. Let's see what this one's like. No, not you. Possibly you. maybe you. The texture I'm looking for is basically just a, I don't want anything too detailed. I just want it to darken up the outer edges of that tile where it meets the ledge that runs around the outside edge here in the model. So you might work. Actually, you probably will work. So let's just scale it down a bit, and I want to pull the model in a bit more. So I'm working with it a little bit closer. I'm just going to rotate that texture around, and we'll start painting it down. I'm going to actually change the brush slightly. I want to feather out the outer edge a bit more. And I'm going to pull back the opacity as well, and the flow a little bit. Alright, now we're working on a new layer. Just going to paint that in a bit. Just rotating the brush around as I move around the model. Just going to bake that down. Okay, paint it in just through here. Rotate the brush a bit. Paint it in through there, and I'll just bake that down. Okay. Rotate that around a bit like that. Rotate it a bit more. Bake it in. Paint that in there like that. Bake it down. Okay, paint that a little bit in there. Bake that down. Maybe a bit up through here. And maybe just a little bit through there. Bake that down. Just zoom out a bit. Alright, now I'll just move that texture up to the side, and we'll look at our layers here. I'd like to see what an adjustment layer looks like on that texture, so I'll just put an invert on it. Let's throw a new layer on. Maybe. Nope. No, not really. This one probably, maybe not. This one could work well. Let's just rotate that around a little bit. And I'm going to zoom in a bit on the model again. I'm going to scale that up quite large. Again, working on a new layer. I'm just going to paint a bit in here and there. I'm not going to go all the way around the outer edge with this one like I did with the last one, just areas just here and there. Let's bake that in. Okay, we'll just rotate you around a little bit more. And we'll go in through here. Move it over, rotate you around, and just down here. Rotate it, maybe a bit just up in through here. And do a bit there. Again, if you have problems with the texture, the further from the center that you click, the slower you can rotate it, the more control you'll have over it. So if you find your texture is wildly swinging around like it was just then, it means you're too close to the center of the texture, that's all. Okay, let's just zoom out a bit. I'm just going to move that out of the way. I'm not going to change the layer style on this, I'm just going to pull it back though in the opacity a bit, like that. Okay, we're just going to save that quickly. And I'm going to export flattened, export everything flattened. We're in our stairs folder here. We're going to call this one mosaic tile painted.tga. We'll stick to Taka. Okay, let's go back into Max. Just going to angle that up a little. We'll go into a texture here. And we'll swap it out for the one we just painted on. Okay. And that's just giving us a little bit of dirt around the outer edge. Just adds a bit more interest to the bitmap. We won't do any work on the interior because the interior is relatively dirty anyway. So it was just to add a bit more interest around the outside edge. Now, let's just close the material editor down and let's have a look at this outside edge here, this raised part, the sandstone part on the terrace itself that runs all the way around the outside of the model. Now, there are a couple of ways you could probably tackle this. You could attach everything together and then, as in attach the sections. This is in 1, 2, 3, and 4 sections. You can attach them all together, take that into Mari and paint it that way, or you can do them individually, and I'm always a big fan of doing them individually. You're going to have more control over the model, you're going to have more control over the texture, and you'll be able to use higher resolution textures than you could if you were just to attach it all completely as one object. You can attach them as one object once you've painted out the separate texture maps. That's not a problem, but while you're doing the texturing work, it's better to work in as few pieces as possible. So that's the way I'll show you how to do it here. So I'm going to, first of all, I'm just going to do a quick save here. Again, I'm not sure if I'm going to put any roof section over this round part in the center, over the rotunda bit here. I may put columns and a roof on it, or I may leave it. I'll wait till it's completely textured up and I'll see whether it needs it or not. So anyway, let's select this outside edge, and looking front on, that's going to be on the right hand side, so we'll call that Terrace base right. Again, we're going to go back to our modify tab. We are going to put an unwrap UVW on. We'll move it to map channel 2. We'll open the editor. I'll select all those UVs and just throw a flattened mapping on. Default values is fine. Okay, now we're going to get a render to texture. We're going again. If Max does this funky thing where you can't see all of the panel, just adjust the box itself and it'll come good. Mapping channel 2. We're going to add a diffuse map. Again, I'm going to make it quite large. You can hit that little icon there to lock it to a square value if you wanted to, but sometimes it's good to not work in square values. Like you could do 4096 in the width and 2048 in the height, which for this would have worked, but because it's UV mapped out to a square now, I'm going to keep it as a square. So we will save that out to our folder, and we're going to call it terracebaseright.tga, 24-bit. Okay, I'll just render that out. I'm just going to turn that off for a minute. Don't worry about this dark section in here. What this is saying is that's basically a piece that's on the inside of the model here that light isn't hitting, and that's why during the render to texture it's being rendered out black. Again, it's an interior piece that won't be seen. If it bothered you, you could remove the interior piece and therefore remove that part of the UV. It doesn't bother me, and this is the base of the model which hasn't been textured up yet, so again we won't worry about that just for the moment. Close that. I'm going to throw in a standard map, bitmap. Terrace base right. What's that one? Show shaded, show realistic. We're just going to assign that material to the selection. It will go funky because we haven't copied over the UVs yet, so let's do that right now. Go to the utilities panel, channel info, copy from 2 into 1. and that's back to the way it was. We'll clear out map channel 2 now because we don't need it. And we will export that section as an OBJ. We'll call it Terrace base right. Okay. Now we're going to go back into Mari, create a new project. Yeah, we'll save the changes to that. Okay, we're calling this one Terrace base right. We're going to load up that model we just exported right there. We're going to create a 4K map. Alright, I'm going to turn on flat shading. I know it's an angle like that's the way it's sitting in Max, so we'll just position it like that for the moment. I'm going to import into the layer stack. Terrace base right.tga. That's the one we just rendered out to texture in 3D Studio Max. Okay. I'm just going to throw a new layer on and import. I'll take these dirt maps. Again, the reason these need to be re-imported every time you start a new project is because the way Mari works is it contains everything for a specific project, or in this case the model we're working on, and saves it all together as one file. That way it's good for collaboration work. If you ever wanted to send your the model you've been working on to another person in your team, you just package up that project file that Mari creates, and then everything will be there for them when they open it up on their machine. Okay, we're just going to bring in a couple more texture maps. It was here I wanted. I had a question yesterday about what I thought was a good 3D modeling program for people to use. There's a few on the market. If you want a completely free solution, there's Blender. That's a very capable 3D modeling program. If you're a student or a teacher, and you could use 3D Studio Max because Autodesk offer that free for anyone that's a student. I think they offer Maya as well, so that's another option. I personally prefer to use 3D Studio Max. I just prefer the interface. I find it a bit better to work with. But a lot of people like Maya as well. Okay, now where are we? All right. I'm going to pull this texture in here. This is the texture we used for, let me just rotate this around so I can get a better view. We used for the sides of the stairs when we were doing them last week. We'll use that again because it's the same sandstone material that's used on the side of the stairs, so keeping it consistent is always a good idea. So we're working in a new layer. Again, I'm just going to dial back my brush, or are you already dialed back? That's fine, it's already dialed back. Okay, good. Just going to zoom in a bit here so I can get closer into the model. Make sure I'm looking at it at the angle that I want to paint on, something like that. Let's see here. Just going to move it up a little. I'm in a new layer, so we'll see what this looks like. If we don't like it, then we can easily remove it. I'm more concerned with these bits here that show up the dirt and the what looks like, I don't know what you call it, runoff from the side of the wall. So I'm going to start by looking just at that section. Down through here. Through here. Some nice texture variation in there. Up through here. Just going to bake that down for a minute. Alright. Now I want to throw in a bit more color in through here. I'm just going over the sections that I want to look a little darker because we're using a low opacity and flow. More times we go over one area, the darker that texture will appear on the when it's baked down. Just going to bake that down quickly. Now go over that area there. And this bit through here. Move it. You'll notice on some of these I don't go all the way to the bottom. That's just to make it look a little different from the ones that we've just painted in. Just got to get my model lined up properly. And again, we're going to be going over this section with a couple more textures, and we may even use a different blend layer on the one that we're doing at the moment. So we'll see how we go. Put that in there. Again, I'm rotating from the outside edge, so I have finer control over the rotation.